My research topic is Goals of Fast Fashion Industry for Raising Consumers' Awareness of Sustainability. Today, sustainability is one of the hot topics for people's consumption significantly causes damage to the environment. Accordingly, industries have also accelerated their production to such an extent that the current society is called capitalism. Then, I chose this topic for fast fashion is fundamental element for people, and they would need more responsible for their consumption patterns. And the industry would need to more focus on education for consumers, as well as to make profits, to make their actions more eco-friendly. Here's the agenda. I'll firstly introduce some background information of fast fashion and its history referring to the modernization. Then I will talk about my analysis from the articles that I read. I will conclude my presentation with policy recommendations. Introduction. Fast fashion is known as low-priced and popular fashion items, particularly among young generations, designed in response to the latest trends, such as H&M, Zara, and Uniqlo. Many fast fashion businesses have succeeded and expanded its business in many nations globally. Since it is efficient for people to purchase items from fast fashion companies throughout seasons, the industry has been conducting mass production. Due to the fact that people demand speed for keeping up with the latest trends and significant amounts of clothing, fast fashion is also called MC fashion. As literature illustrates, the 21st century is full of unsustainability, social inequalities, intense material desire, consumption, and people demand technological domination. I'd like to briefly describe the evolutions of the fast fashion following the modernization. Fast fashion globally prevailed in these 20 years with economic changes. In Japan, the collapse of bubble economy in the late 1990s led to creating various working styles other than full-time employment, such as part-time employment and contract workers. This is because they need to promote more competition domestically and globally with limited financial situations. In Japan, lifetime employment was typical working style. However, with the economic change, people's mindset have changed also. As fast fashion items are affordable for people regardless of their income, more and more people have purchased them today. The industry, on the other hand, has caused significant environmental pollutions. The manufacture process requires sufficient amounts of energy, such as water for washing items and dye materials. In the manufacturing factory of Uniqlo in China, they initially had conducted environmental regulation. They had not initially conducted environmental regulations, and the region's nature had got polluted, such as their neighborhood river the quality of the river has got worse. However, the company has been currently working on environmentally friendly implementations in terms of enhancement of local communities' nature and working environment of workers. They decided to hold regularly meetings by factory workers to discuss what can be done to improve the environmental conditions. Fast fashion industry is an influential social actor who is also playing an important role in fixing environmental issues. From the perspective of consumers, researchers mostly talk about the fast fashion issues in terms of their consumption patterns and their environmental awareness. Despite the efforts made by fast fashion businesses, Anama et al. State that young generations today do not prioritize sustainability when purchasing clothes. As previously mentioned, their focus would be more on following the popular trend and perceived price values. The text describes people are in time of post-materialism, which this started in the 1970s, and people associate materials with targets of self-expression and freedom rather than material security. As older generations are more conscious of material security and physical items, it will be suggested that there is a generation gap due to the economic growth. In addition, I found another theory, ecological modernization, which refers to the society where people will become more aware of environmental issues because the globe has discussion on environmental topics currently. For instance, there are some international protocols that regulate pollutant chemicals. Therefore, people could value more environmental issues in the future. Although institutions can easily manipulate people's consumption choice, people might question rationality and take actions for fixing the capitalist society, as the ecological modernization describes. I'm talking about some previous studies which discusses from the perspective of fast fashion industry. Generally, many researchers tend to pay attention to advertisement and marketing of the industry. Chang Jie illustrates that advertisements is one of the primary communication means between the industry and consumers. However, in practice, it is not beneficial for them to advertise about environmental implementations in order to make profit. Besides, consumers are more conscious of perceived values, price values, and brand names. We could see that a huge gap between businesses' efforts and consumers' demand. On the other hand, the other authors stated that if consumers are provided with more information on eco-friendly materials used in fast fashion items, they would purchase more environmental clothes. This means that people do not necessarily completely ignore environmental issues when selecting their clothes. And advertisement would be one way, and it would be necessary for industry to have more sufficient means for transmitting information. Based on my findings, I'd like to show my policy recommendations for conclusion. In individual and institutional level, promotion for sharing information between the industry and consumers is needed. To be specific, fast fashion physical stores will be able to have interviews with their consumers in order to raise awareness of environmental implementations and to educate them by sharing information with one another. In global level, fast fashion conference joined by fast fashion companies and national representatives would be one option. Even though there will be cultural and social differences among joined nations, people will be able to at least introduce new perspectives into their home country, and they gain some hints to attempt new implementations in the future. These are my references. Thank you for listening.